Ida B, Chapter 9. Mama had a lump. The lump had cancer in it. That was nothing that wasn't nothing. But it didn't seem like a too terrible everything at first. It seemed like a penny up your nose kind of thing. You have to get it out because it doesn't belong there. And if you kept it there for too long, you'd have an awful hard time with a cold. So you go to the doctor. She takes it out real quick, and pretty soon you forget how it felt to have a sore, stuffed up, stretched out nose. That's how I thought it was going to be with the lump. But it wasn't like that for Mama. First, she went to the doctor. After that, she needed to go to the hospital for an operation. Then, the cancer wasn't just in the lump, but under her arm too. And the doctors hoped they'd gotten it all out, but they couldn't say for sure. The cancer was like bugs in a tree. One day you don't see them at all, and the next it seems like they're everywhere, eating the leaves and the fruit. And it won't work to find them and squish them one by one. You have to do something drastic. So Mama went to the hospital for treatments. And when she'd come home, she'd be so tired. She had to work hard just to say, "Hi, baby." Then she'd go in her room and lie down on the bed. If you went away for an hour or so and came back, she'd look exactly the same. On her back, eyes closed, face white like milk, hands holding on tight to the spread. I'd go to the side of her bed and stroke her cheek. Ugh, she'd moan when my fingers brushed her skin with a touch lighter than you used to pet a baby kitten. So I stopped touching her. But I asked her if she wanted me to read to her. "No thanks, honey," she said, her lips hardly moving. Did she want Lulu to come and visit? Maybe later. Did she want to hear me spell vivacious? Not now, sweetie. "Mama," I whispered once, and we'd both been quiet for a long time. She replied like she was answering me from a dream. "Are you going to die?" I asked her so softly, I could hardly hear myself. Mama opened her eyes and turned her head toward me. "Ida B," she said, looking at me more serious than ever. "Yes, Mama," I said back, but I couldn't look at her, so I stared at the bumps on the bedspread. "I will always be with you," she told me. Always. Then she turned her face back to the ceiling, closed her eyes, and said, "Do you understand, baby?" And I said, "Yes, Mama," even though I didn't. Then I just sat by her and watched her breathe, making sure her belly kept going up, then down. Mama's hair started falling out in big tufts on her pillow, and I would go in her room and collect it when she'd get up for a while. I put it in Ida B's bag of assorted things for not yet determined plans, but there was nothing in there except Mama's hair. I kept that bag under my pillow, and if I put my hand in it and closed my eyes, I could pretend I was floating in a cloud of Mama. After Mama's treatments, our house would get as quiet as a library with only grown-ups in it, like there was a constant shh hushing us all the time in every room. We walked around not looking directly at each other anymore. Daddy looked down, I looked down, even Rufus looked down. But not Lulu. She glared right at us as if to say, "Whatever is going on, I'd like my food 5 minutes ago." We placed our dishes so softly in the sink. We pulled our chairs out from the table so carefully. We walked so lightly on the floors. I don't know if we were trying not to wake Mama or trying not to wake the cancer. When there was time, Daddy and I would sit together in the big chair so we were close enough we could whisper and still hear each other. And read stories. And those were just about the only good times in the house then. Afterward, Daddy would go and check if Mama would have some soup, or maybe some crackers. "Do you want anything to eat, Ida?" he'd say at the door to their room, and his voice was soft like rabbit's fur, light like smoke. It would float over to her and stroke her cheek, then her forehead, but never press too hard. And most of the time, Mama would whisper, "No thank you, honey." But sometimes she'd just say, "Evan," with the voice of a love that's 1,000 miles away. Mama would have a treatment and things would be the worst. Little by little, though, she'd start to get better till she was coming close to being my Mama again. She'd start eating and working with Daddy a bit and asking me, "Ida B, if it takes 2 1/2 cups of flour to bake a pie, and you bake 2 pies a week for a year, except for the week of Christmas when you bake 5, how many cups of flour do you need? Only 2 a week, Mama, I'd ask. Couldn't it be 3? And she would almost smile, just like before. But by then, 3 weeks would be up and it'd be time for another treatment. All of the happiness that thought it might be safe to come back to our house had to turn around and go back to where it came from. Even the glowing that was Mama's disappeared from her eyes, and I couldn't find it no matter how long I looked at her. Then, when no one was paying any mind, I'd go into my room, close the door, sit on the floor behind my bed, and cry for Mama and Daddy and me, and for all the love that seemed wasted because it couldn't fix Mama. That's it. Whew, that was a tough chapter, wasn't it? I know, tough chapter, but it gets better, I promise.